Wall Street hedge fund brought to its knees by a handful of keyboard warriors on Reddit. The empire, it seems, is striking back. Repeat after me, though. The system is rigged. Friends, it's time for Hold the Line. Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. It has been a fascinating 48 hours in the financial world. This is really the biggest story in the country, and in some ways the biggest story right now in the world. If you're not up to speed, this week thousands of individual investors banded together using stock trading apps to buy shares in the video game retailer called GameStop. There you see it. This buying frenzy was egged on by a Reddit group called Wall Street Bets, and it caused the price to soar. The buying frenzy was bad news for Melvin Capital, a New York-based hedge fund that had just acquired a short position in the retail company, essentially betting that the price of the stock would drop. The hedge fund actually had a huge short position in, and they have lost billions of dollars. That's right, billions with a B on this one trade. Wall Street heavyweights and regulators are still trying to make sense of all of it. And by the way, that's not the only firm that has this trouble right now. But there's pushback against individual investors that we're already seeing. Here you have Robinhood, a platform that's supposed to democratize trading for the masses, saying in light of current volatility, we are restricting transactions for certain securities. Now, there's a number of trading platforms, including Robinhood, that have decided that certain stocks, including GameStop and AMC Theaters, cannot be bought, only can be sold. Is that a free market? In addition, messaging service Discord has banned Wall Street Bets from its platform for what it calls hateful and discriminatory content. You see, hedge funds are apparently now a protected class. Make no mistake about it. This is Wall Street trying to protect its own and a rigged system. They will not allow the House to lose. And this is something that we see in so many aspects of America today. How many things can you point to and say, it's rigged? Social media, rigged. News organizations, rigged. Feel like I'll get censored if I bring up elections, but there's that. And you also have now Wall Street. How do these hedge funds make so much money? What were they really doing here? Well, they were betting on a stock to go down, betting big time that the stock would go down. And that actually hurts the stock price, which makes it more likely that the company will go under. So essentially, they were trying to kill off GameStop, which has thousands of employees still across the country. It's an embattled chain. It's a little bit like the Blockbuster Video of video games, but it's still going, still has some sales. And so these hedge funds wanted to make a whole lot of money off the pain of the GameStop shareholders and the company itself. So they're betting against it. And then what happens? Some people on the internet figure out, hold on a second. We can actually bet in the other direction and bring the price up. This is called the short squeeze. And then the hedge funds have to start buying and buying back stock that they have already borrowed to sell so they can profit as it goes down. But it didn't go down. It went up. In fact, it went up so much that it is jaw-dropping. And hit today, I think we could show the numbers. I mean, I saw today near $500. This is astonishing. This, in the last week, has been the most heavily traded, most focused on stock in the entire world. A dwindling chain of stores selling what can now be downloaded very easily by anybody who has a smart TV, right? There you go. It made up to 450 today. It's since come back down, but this is billions and billions of dollars trading hands. Why does this matter to you? I have to focus in on that with this show. This is not CNBC. I'm not going to have a bunch of hedge fund guys sit next to me and, speak a bunch of nonsense. No, this matters to you because it shows you that certain people are allowed to lose and certain people must win. That's the way the system actually goes. There's no justification for this. If people can go on TV who represent major financial institutions and tell you to go buy a stock, why can't private citizens come together and say, hey, I think we should all buy this other stock? The answer is that there's a club here. And some people, the individual investors using Robinhood, they're not a part of it. The hedge funds, by the way, they give money to, you guessed it, primarily the Democrat Party. Not entirely. There's some Republicans who get money too, but it's mostly Democrats that are benefiting from this largesse. And you see some of the major speculators, people making money often off the financial misery of others, people like George Soros, who are involved in a whole lot of political causes that affect what your kid learns in school, that affects what you're able to watch on TV. There are people out there who use the money they're amassing in this system to control your life. So yes, it really does matter. And when you have a situation like this, where the everyday folks come up with a good idea and the very wealthy hedge fund people are using their leverage, using their power to change the rules of the game as it's happening, it shows us what's really going on here, which is that a lot of these big Wall Street firms, they make their money by taking money from you. They are actually benefiting from the rent seeking against Main Street. That's a lot of what happens on Wall Street. And they're willing to use all kinds of tools at their disposal, including, in this case, what's just clearly unfair. I don't use that word a lot. This is unfair. They're blocking this trade because hedge funds, and it's not just Melvin Capital, there are numerous hedge funds that are losing billions, perhaps tens of billions of dollars right now. How many of those hedge funds do you think have made big donations to Democrat politicians? How many of those hedge funds have enormous legal teams that will threaten to sue, will bring different actions against, say, Robinhood, or against these different platforms where people are sharing their thoughts about this stock? We thought we were supposed to be in a free market, right? Conservatives, you go back for years here, we had this free market mantra, but what we're seeing increasingly is that it's not a free market. And the people who are suffering are the ones that actually could benefit the most from transparency, from accountability in how these financial transactions happen. This is why there's also such a push toward Bitcoin. People are recognizing that a currency that is separate from government machinations, that is separate from the government's manipulation, might be a really good thing when we're in a country now where people like AOC and other Democrats in Congress take modern monetary theory as gospel. You know what modern monetary theory is? Spend as much of the public's money as you want or as you need to as the government and figure it out later. So yeah, people are recognizing that this has all been a massive transfer of wealth from savers to speculators, and the speculators assume that they get to sit atop the pyramid. They get to make sure that they get the lion's share of the profits. You might get a little bit thrown into your 401k, you might get a little bit here and there, but this is not allowed to happen. Main Street is not allowed to rise up and beat Wall Street at its own game. It's a fascinating and, quite honestly, delicious thing to watch, but it also has big implications for, I think, the way the economy is going to roll out in this country. People are seeing where it's rigged, and they recognize that it's got to change. And that means they're going to have to get away from the good graces of regulatory agencies. They're going to have to assume that they can't trust anyone. They must have transparency. This is where blockchain technology and some of the new emerging decentralized monetary systems become really, really powerful. Because otherwise, yeah, you can go to the casino, you can show up and you can play at the craps table, but if you start winning, they're going to show up and say, no, your money has to go to the guy next to you because he's our friend. That's the hedge fund. Plus, we've got something else I want to tell you about. Douglas Mackey, speaking of the rig system here, this guy went under the name Ricky Vaughn. He claimed he was running an illegal voter disinformation campaign. According to a DOJ complaint, Mackey conspired with others to use social media platforms, including Twitter, to disseminate fraudulent messages designed to encourage supporters of one of the presidential candidates to vote via text messages or social media, a legally invalid method of voting. They're showing you right now, speaking of the rig system, that if you post things that the people in power don't like, you can now go to prison for memes. That's right. How do we know this guy wasn't even joking, right? If he put something out online, he says, hey, vote by text message. Do I think this was a good idea? No, of course not. But should you go to federal prison for 10 years? Democrats are sending a message. You see this? The powerful, the real struggle in this country, we're always told it's intersectionality, it's oppression of different identity groups and all stuff. No, the real struggle is the rich and the powerful against the rest of the country. That's what's playing out right now. And the Biden administration is showing you that if you speak out against the system, which of course they are now in charge of, they'll come after you. Don't ask too many questions about the rigged game or Biden's FBI men will come to your door. All right, we got more on the shakeup on Wall Street with the founder of Penn Financial Group, Matt McCall, right when we come back. I love Black Rifle coffee. In fact, I drink it every morning. I drink it several times a day. If you're like me, you need your coffee to get going, but you don't want to be supporting some company that's all about the woke left, and you don't want to have to wait in line. So, I can get you delicious coffee at a great price delivered right to your door. I can cover all of your needs when it comes to coffee with Black Rifle. That's right. The best way to enjoy Black Rifle coffee is through the Coffee Club. It's a free subscription where your chosen coffee is roasted, packaged, and shipped free to your door on your schedule. In addition to the convenience, you receive special discounted pricing and gain access to exclusive products, member-only content, partner discounts, and more. Get the freshest coffee in America without leaving the couch. Go to blackriflecoffee.com/buck. Use code BUCK at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first Coffee Club order. Again, that's blackriflecoffee.com/buck. Get great coffee from American patriots who share your values. Go check it out today. My friends, we are witnessing the modern-day David versus Goliath unfolding right before our eyes. Internet day traders are beating the big hedge fund honchos at their own game, and Wall Street's having none of it. Here's the latest with financial expert and founder of Penn Financial Group, Matt McCall. Matt, good to see you.
Great to see you, Buck. Thanks for having me.
Matt, just give the folks at home a little sense. There might be a little background necessary here for why is GameStop and Robinhood and all these other stocks that they're now restricting trading on. Why is this for some perhaps the biggest story in the country right now? Why does this matter?
Well, it matters to me because this all kind of started as a game about a week or so ago where they're trying to take down the hedge funds, the little guys. And that's fine. I'm all for the little guys. But my fear was that Wall Street and the big banks and the government's not going to be happy with it. And when they're not happy, Buck, what does that lead to? Insane regulation. And we saw some of that today. So what Robinhood did, and Robinhood is this free app where you can go buy shares with no minimum. It's really for the average everyday investor. And what's funny about this is their motto is democratize finance for all. So basically, they're here for everybody. They're the modern day Robinhood. Well, we actually have
a tweet we could show from them, Matt, for everybody at home, that their motto, in a sense, is let the people trade. Well, the people have been trading, Matt. Go ahead.
Oh, they have been trading, but today, because of their trading, they sent these hedge funds that are short these stocks, GameStop and a few others, they losing billions and billions of dollars. So what does Robinhood do? They stop the trading in these stocks. So they're there for the people, but in reality, again, this is Wall Street being there for Wall Street. This is what I call, Buck, this is old Wall Street. New Wall Street's on its way up, and I can't wait to see them demolish it.
It seems like it's fair to say, Matt, that the game is rigged here. And you have, for example, the NASDAQ CEO, Adena Friedman, coming down against these everyday traders, saying that well, here you go, we can play the clip for you.
As we look at these new technologies that are there available to everyone, including investors, I think it's also important for regulators to understand that manipulation is manipulation, whether it's happening through a new technology medium or it's happening through traditional mail. So I think it's just a matter of making sure that we understand what the behavior is, what's underpinning the behavior, and working appropriately with the regulators to manage the situation.
Matt, the more I talk to people like you who work in this field and professionals that really get it, they're saying this isn't manipulation. They saw something. They saw weakness. These hedge funds forgot about all their risk parameters. They're supposed to hedge. It's in the name. They weren't hedging. They were all in, betting on essentially the destruction of GameStop as well as some of these other companies. And they bet against the bet on destruction, right? I mean, why are they getting away now with saying that this is somehow manipulation?
It's not manipulation. The price of a stock is very simple. It's based on the amount of buyers and the amount of sellers. It's a free market. So if there's more buyers, the price goes up. The fact that Wall Street and these big hedge funds are now losing, it's suddenly manipulation. It's not manipulation when these high-frequency traders are taking money away from the retail investor every single day. That's not manipulation. That's okay. But when David and Goliath go at it, and Goliath gets beat, now it's a big deal. But again, my biggest fear here, Buck, is that the government comes in and they try to regulate this. They regulate chat rooms. They regulate who can buy or sell. They stop trading in stocks. That is not a free market.
Matt, you also have people feeling more and more like if this were somehow in the other direction, right? If the hedge funds were engaged in, let's say, going on TV and telling everybody, buy this stock that they happen to be long, that the hedge funds were investing in, that's fine. But Reddit threads, these online platforms where people are just coming together and sharing ideas, they're not only being put under scrutiny, they're being shut down in some cases. They're closing off these chat rooms. Robinhood blocked people from making trades today. How is that a free market?
It absolutely isn't. And you make a great point there. Back near the market bottom, Bill Ackman, a big billionaire hedge fund guy, came on CNBC and said this market's basically, it's in such danger. We learned later he was buying that day. As he's scaring people, pushing the market down, he's buying. That's manipulation that should put you in jail, in my opinion. Meanwhile, this is a group of people. This is no different than when the stock market started down in Wall Street underneath a tree saying buy and sell and going back and forth, getting together. This is what America is all about. This is a free market, and they're trying to shut us down.
Is this the beginning of a greater decentralization and democratization of our financial systems, especially when you add this, Matt, to the rise of crypto as a very real asset class? What do you see happening here going forward?
You make a great point, because I don't think you're going to see another broker dealer come in and say, hey, I'm going to let you trade these stocks, because they have the SEC and FINRA, everybody looking down on them, so they don't want to get in trouble. But what you're going to see is called DeFi. It's a subsector of the cryptocurrencies, decentralized finance. So now you can exchange money, trade stocks, trade anything, really without the government oversight, and really peer-to-peer. That is the future. And a lot of these DeFi coins and tokens out there have done extremely well over the last year. It's still really risky in a Wild West. I own some personally, but this is the future. We're cutting out the middleman. Everything from stock market to title insurance to buying cars to buying houses. The middlemen are going to be wiped out in the next 10 years.
What do you think happens to the hedge fund industry now that people feel like the emperor has no clothes on some of this stuff?
In my opinion, they're on their way down anyway. They were originally created, as you mentioned before, as hedge funds to hedge. They don't hedge. They go very aggressive in one way. They blow themselves up. They start again. It's a bunch of ego-inflated people sitting around all doing the same thing. I think it's dead. They overcharge people. They've been fleecing people. They don't let the average public into it. So I think they're done. But again, let's go back to regulation real quick, Buck. Think about this. The government's told us for years, until recently, the people in the 98%, unless you're a millionaire, you cannot buy into private companies. We finally changed that. So what's going to happen now? Do you think it's going to come out and the government's going to say, because you're not rich, we're going to tell you which stocks you can buy and sell? And that's basically what they're doing right now.
Matt McCall, Penn Financial. Matt, always appreciate it, man. Good to see you. Thanks for sharing your expertise.
Thanks, Buck.
A report from the New York Attorney General's office shows the state may have undercounted deaths in nursing homes by as much as 50%. Looks like Andrew Cuomo's got some explaining to do. More on that in tonight's Buck Brief. Have you ever wanted to invest in real estate, but you didn't have the time to do it on your own? I felt exactly that way until about a year ago. You see, I've always loved the idea of real estate investment, but I didn't know how to invest in real estate while staying committed to my profession. You see, I do 5 hours of original programming and content every day. So how could I possibly take the time to invest in real estate on my own? Then I met my friends at Done For You Real Estate. They took all of the guesswork out of it for me. They found me an awesome property. They rented it out for me right away. They managed the tenant for me, and now I get a check every month like clockwork. Don't wait another second to see if my buddies at Done For You Real Estate can do for you what they did for me. Visit doneforyoubuck.com to see how it works. Again, that's doneforyoubuck.com. This is stable, proven. There's a track record here you could look at. They'll take you through every step of the process. All you have to do is go to doneforyoubuck.com to start your real estate investment journey today. When you think of hypocrisy, gaslighting, sociopathy, dishonesty, what politician is the first one who comes to mind? I think for most people, the name that resonates is Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, at least if you live in New York, that's for sure. For months, we've had to endure his folksy shtick. Oh, I'm going to give a press conference. Oh, I'm going to have slides, and I'm going to talk to you like this, and it's going to be very slow but very definitive. He pretends to be a competent governor stewarding his state through a deadly pandemic. Then we hear deflections, though, when he's asked questions. We hear lies, we hear falsehoods. He spews them repeatedly whenever he's questioned, in particular about his policy response with regard to nursing homes and infected COVID patients. That decision alone can be directly attributed, and is by many, to thousands of deaths of seniors in these institutions. So instead of owning up to this failure, what has Cuomo done? He's denied, he's obfuscated, he even goes on offense sometimes about it. He wouldn't even let us see the real numbers, though. We could not see, understand this, he would not let the people of New York or the people of this country see the real numbers of nursing home deaths until now. Let's dive into all of this on today's Buck Brief. For months now, many of us have been making the case that the single, and I'm among them, the single worst decision made on a policy level about the entire COVID pandemic may very well have been Governor Andrew Cuomo making it a matter of law that nursing homes had to take back people who were seniors coming out of hospitals who were still believed to have COVID-19. You couldn't think of a more hazardous way to go forward. This is what Cuomo did. Of course, he blames the federal government for it. Well, now the New York Times is trying to bring some degree of accountability to this. Of course, after the presidential election, after we were told that Donald Trump is the reason for COVID. Yeah, that's what they said to you. How does that look now? Donald Trump runs the whole world, I guess. Yeah, he was just, sitting there tinkering with a virus in a lab in Wuhan all by himself, wasn't he? This is madness. Here's the Times today. New York severely undercounted virus deaths in nursing homes. The state attorney general, this is coming from the state attorney general, folks, Letitia James, said it's likely the Cuomo administration failed to report thousands of COVID-19 deaths of nursing home residents. You know how they did this? So that they could hide the degree of the disaster. And we all understand why, right? Because this is, when people's parents and grandparents are dying in very large numbers because of the stupidity of the state, even in a Democrat stronghold like New York, there can be political consequences for that. So do you know what they did? Oh, that's right. They decided to change the way they were counting the dead in nursing homes in New York. So you were only counted under the Cuomo administration decision. You were only counted as a death in a nursing home if you died of COVID in the nursing home. But if you got infected in the nursing home and made it to a hospital from the nursing home and died in the hospital, as so many thousands did, that wasn't considered a nursing home death. Now why would they want to cover all that up? Well, because if the problem here had been that Cuomo had essentially seeded infections in the nursing homes with his disastrously stupid order, and he told them, and this was a function of law, you must take them back. And he said it was because they were worried, as they were discharging people from the hospital too quickly, he was worried they would run out of hospital beds. So this was an active decision. We're going to run out of hospital beds, he said, so let's take people who are still sick with COVID, who are seniors, send them right back into the nursing homes, where they have far less by way of procedures to try to protect people from the virus. They obviously don't have the kind of medical staff. Disastrous. He wanted to cover up how bad this decision really was, and up until now, he largely managed to do that. Here's what Cuomo was saying about this. Play it.
And we never needed nursing home beds because we always had hospital beds. So it just never happened in New York where we needed to say to a nursing home, we need you to take this person even though they're COVID positive. It never happened. We had extra beds. We had extra beds at Javits. We had extra beds at emergency hospitals that we put up all across the state. So it just never happened that we needed a nursing home to take a COVID positive person. It never happened.
The problem is that there is a an executive order. There's actual documentation of that Cuomo decision saying specifically that you must take back people into nursing homes who are discharged from the hospital, no ifs, ands, or buts. The most high-risk single place for fatalities from COVID in the country, any place where people live, nursing homes. Almost half of all deaths in America have been in nursing homes. And yet Cuomo said, sorry, don't want to run out of hospital beds, so you better take them back into the nursing home or else. What else is he saying other than just lying about the numbers and doing what he always does, which is come up with some fanciful story to explain how he's not the worst governor in the country? Here he is on MSNBC doing the usual dance about how it's not his fault, man. He wasn't making choices about New York State health. Play it.
We know that. You look at any state, and they had a tremendous number of deaths in nursing homes. It's all a political charade, and it's an ugly one, frankly, to talk about a number of deaths and suggest there was politics at it. The number of deaths are still going up, Stephanie. Look at Florida, look at Texas, look at Arizona. Let them look in the mirror and say, you know what, we were wrong. We're killing people unnecessarily by this irresponsible, reckless reopening, and it's not working for the economy either. Those are the facts, Stephanie. There are still facts and truth in life, even in this political mayhem that this nation is in.
Yeah. The guy who's all about the facts, huh? All about the truth and the light. The reality here, and many people have seen it, many people have crunched the numbers. I don't think that Governor Cuomo wanted seniors to die. I don't think that he's some truly psychopathic monster, obviously. But he made a very, very bad decision. And he's a politician. He has a lot of power. In fact, he's taken more power than any governor you can think of in living memory. And he made a very bad decision, and he should be held to account for that. And the first step is truth and transparency. Up next, the CDC has given the green light to letting children back into the classroom. So what's standing in the way of reopening those schools? Oh, that's right, teachers' unions. We've got our first TV host, Jesse Kelly, giving us his perspective when we come back. Great news. In its latest report, the CDC has said it is safe for children to go back into our nation's classrooms with proper precautions, stating, quote, there has been little evidence that schools have contributed meaningfully to increased community transmission. But efforts to open schools up have faced resistance from some teachers who, despite the science, are continuing to push for remote learning.
You will know that I have opposed opening schools because I feel it's just too dangerous.
I died from catching COVID-19, from being forced back into Pinellas County Schools. You can drop my dead body right here.
Okay. With all the data showing the impact this is having on our students, how are teachers' unions winning on this one? Here to discuss, the first TV contributor, Jesse Kelly. Mr. Jesse Kelly, how are you, sir?
Well, I'm good. Buck, I'm honestly not trying to change the subject. I swear I'm not. But that dude you just had on the screen with the I can't teach if I'm dead thing, talking about dropping his dead body, all politics aside, as a dude, what are you saying to yourself when you look in the mirror and you're putting a cardboard box sign over your neck and some little fruity mask on your face with a microphone in your hand? Aren't you embarrassed? Do you think that guy has a moment where he is like, man, this is embarrassing? Look at that guy. Look, that person. He put that stuff on.
No,
Do you think he has a private moment where he's like, oh, man, this looks bad?
No, he feels like he's a hero. He's part of the, the Mask Shamers International here. He watches a lot of CNN, actually probably MSNBC, probably Maddow's show, and has been seeing nothing but, the Trump death count up on the, where everyone who's dying because of Donald Trump. It was pretty amazing that Trump is responsible for COVID-19 cases all over the globe, including all around Europe and in South America, in many cases with a way worse per capita fatality outcome we've had here in the U.S., Jesse. But on schools, this is amazing because there is no real serious argument that children should not be back in school. In fact, there really wasn't a good argument for any children not to be back in school last September. Here in New York, they're talking about how maybe they'll all be back in school next fall. We'll see about that. This is what liberal delusions and hashtag science leads people to.
It does it every time, and it's never based in any fact at all. I mean, wasn't it amazing, Buck, at the beginning that there was no evidence at all that kids were affected in any meaningful way by this, and one of the first things they did was close the schools. And anybody who brought up that's really bad for kids, especially lower income kids or kids in abusive homes, it's really terrible. We've seen child abuse go through the roof as more kids are stuck at home with their crappy abusive parents. And there was never any reason for it. And not only is it amazing they did it, now nobody will step forward and have the integrity and say, "Oh man, I screwed this up. I was wrong. They should have been in school all along." That's really worked out.
The most
well.
you'll get from Fauci, who I really think is an evil little hack now. I mean, I've gone even beyond. I used to just think that he was largely wrong. Now I think, this is the guy who, you sit down in the Kafka short story, who's like, yeah, I know it's unfair and it stinks and it's my fault, but that's the way it is because I have the power. So, sucks for you. That's who Dr. Fauci is. I want to ask you to respond here or react, I should say, to this Virginia father who he was like my spirit animal unleashed here about. I don't even have kids. Never mind. But I see what he's saying about school closures. Let's hear it.
I literally just finished a conference call because I'm having to multitask to be here to address you guys. You're a bunch of cowards hiding behind our children as an excuse for keeping schools closed. You think you're some sort of martyrs because of the decisions you're making when the statistics do not lie that the vast majority of the population is not at risk from this virus. The garbage workers who pick up my freaking trash risk their lives every day more than anyone in this school system. Figure it out or get off the podium. Because you know what? There are people like me and a line of other people out there who will gladly take your seat and figure it out. It's not a high bar. Raise the freaking bar.
I'm going to give staff an opportunity to make sure that the podium and microphone have been.
Please wipe it down ahead of time, please, because we don't want anything to affect us.
Sir, your time is finished. Can you please leave the boardroom?
It's okay. Don't worry.
Thank you.
I'll be back next time, and the next time, to open the freaking school!
If more Americans had this guy's backbone, we would already have our lives back, Jesse. I mean, I wanted to slow clap for this guy.
Mm-hmm. If more Americans not only had that guy's backbone, ran for school board. It is time. This is the mistake that we have made on the right, and we have to own that. Our nature is to mind our own business. I mind my own business. I know you. You're a personal friend. You do too. That's just our nature. No. This silent majority, mind my own business thing has got to be gone. You show up at your local school board, even whether it's about COVID or not, and you make a freaking scene. And when you're done making a freaking scene at your local school board, you walk right out the door and you start running against whoever your school board person is. And you run all of them out of office. And then you go run everybody in your city council out of office and your mayor out of office. This silent majority crap has to stop. That guy should lead this entire movement right now. That's how it's done. You've been silent for so long, the commies have taken over all of it. Well, it's time to take it back, and you don't take it back silently. I'm with you. I played him on my radio show the other day. I may play him again tomorrow. I thought it was awesome.
I thought he was fantastic. And what he points out here as well, if you're an essential worker, are you essential or not? Clearly, teachers are not essential workers, is what the teachers' unions are telling us, right? I know everyone always does this thing too. Oh, but I'm a teacher. I have a friend who's a teacher. I want to go back to the classroom. They're not the problem. The problem are the bloated but very powerful teachers' unions in major cities and Democrat strongholds who are going, yeah, we think we can squeeze more money and more concessions out of the taxpayer right now because, we kind of got them over a barrel. And also a lot of our members really like getting paid their full salary to sit on their couch and, press the play button on Zoom. Much easier job, Jesse.
Much easier job. And look, nobody talks about how this affects the kids. It goes from, just regular politics, Democrat versus Republican, to I hate to sound like a television evangelist right now, to good versus evil. You want to play your politics with some things, fine. When you're screwing up the mental health of kids, these are kids. I don't even have a heart and I care about kids. You're screwing up the mental health of kids so you can squeeze an extra vacation day, maybe a 1% raise or something like that, you're legitimately just a bad person. And I say that as a bad person. You're actually worse than me, and that's saying something.
When do you think we are actually going to get our lives back, Jesse? I mean, you and I have been holding this line, if you will, for a long time now. And I will say, as much as I've expected this to unfold the way that it has, I did think that we'd be closer to the American people saying enough. Right now, it feels like Joe Biden presidency, 100 days of masking. I think they've got at least 6 to 9 more months in them of just mask up, shut up, do what you're told, peasant.
Why would they give us our lives back? And what motivation do they have? This whole thing is, let's see, it's given them the Senate, it's given them the presidency, it's made all their gigantic big tech, big business donors, it's made all them even more rich than they were before, on top of the fact that it's crushed all their small business competition, which is really what the big businesses want anyway. The unions, as you already pointed out, are making money, only now they're making money to sit home in their PJs and drink Merlot while little Timmy cries on the computer set. The mayors, who are lifelong dorks who've never talked to a girl in their lives, now have more power than ever before, and they can point to a business and tell it to close. Tell me, all the people who've abused us through COVID, what's one motivation they have to make it stop? And the American people, and look, I hate to point fingers at the American people were so upset about Democrats just using coronavirus to destroying lives, they promptly went to the polls in November and voted for Joe Biden. So they're not going to make it stop because there's no motivation to make it stop. You say 9 months, I say you're being ambitious.
I think you may be right, but always good to see you, Jesse. We'll keep on this one. You take care down there in Texas.
See you, boss.
All right, we're there. Our rapid fire look at some of the stories that we want to make sure we bring to your attention. Haven't gotten to them yet, but we will. Quick hits up next. These days, being prepared for the unknown is more important than ever. I'm sure you've noticed the world we live in today is anything but predictable. Wild stock market swings all over the place. We could all benefit from something reliable right about now. Well, what could be more reliable than real gold and silver? I'm talking about real gold and silver you can actually hold right in your hands. Call the Oxford Gold Group and learn how easy it is to get real gold and silver sent securely directly to your home, or how you can have real gold and silver placed in your IRA or 401k. Just call the Oxford Gold Group at 833-600-GOLD and ask for your free guide on owning gold and silver. Again, call the Oxford Gold Group right now at 833-600-GOLD. The Oxford Gold Group is the only gold company I trust. Don't wait for inflation to kick in. Don't wait for the stock market to crash. Call Oxford Gold right now. Take action. 833-600-GOLD. One more time, that's 833-600-GOLD. The Oxford Gold Group, that's who I get my gold from. The left continues its call for never-ending lockdowns, and Senator Chris Murphy wants to jail Trump supporters. We got those stories right now in quick hits. Let's first start with the Biden administration's chief, or one of, I guess Fauci's the chief advisor, one of the top advisors on all things COVID, this guy Michael Osterholm. And he is very upset because Gavin Newsom, who, as you might know, is facing a recall election in California because people are so very, very upset with him. Gavin Newsom is out there trying to reopen a little bit, allow restaurants to open up and to take these actions that would bring back whole sectors of the economy. Biden's guy Osterholm doesn't like it. Play it.
This is going to be the darkest of the days. And so we have to help our political leaders understand now's the time not to roll out. Now's not the time to ease up. Because, again, we will be pumping the brakes after the car is wrapped around the tree if we do that.
Can't ease up now. When can we ease up again? And what has the lockdown done for California exactly? How well has that gone? Somebody should ask Osterholm that. Oh, it's because people don't really do it, they tell you, right? They got tired of it. No one really believes that, do they? The bipartisan impeachment is something that you're going to be hearing from Democrats here. You got Representative Hakeem Jeffries, who is making that case.
This was the most bipartisan impeachment in American history, and I expect that there will be Democrats and, of course, some Senate Republicans who will vote to convict Donald Trump for inciting a violent insurrection. The question is, can we get to 17 or not? That remains to be seen. I think most reasonable and respectful senators on the Republican side are going to wait to hear the information before already lobbying and making process arguments to again find an excuse for Donald Trump's behavior.
They're not going to get to 17. They've already had a vote, and you got 45 Republicans who think the whole thing is unconstitutional. They're not getting to 17 votes. But why are they going through this? Vindictiveness. Because they don't like Donald Trump, that's putting it mildly, and they also want to stick a thumb in the eye of his supporters. They want to humiliate the people who voted for Trump because they weren't allowed to do it. Don't you see? They transgressed with those votes. That's what the left, that's what the Democrat Party really believes. You have to be punished. It's not enough that Joe Biden's president. It's not enough that Trump lost. We have to be punished now for our wrongthink. And you're seeing that all around society. This is increasingly the approach that the left has taken. And if you're wondering to what degree of punishment we will have to suffer, here's Senator Murphy talking about how, they're going to have to send some Trump supporters, well, who knows where. Play it.
For the person that we put in jail after they commit a crime, accountability, I guess, is divisive. The people that support them and like them probably aren't too enamored by the fact that their loved one goes to jail. But we still enforce the laws of this country because there has to be consequence for violations of the rule of law. And there has to be consequence when the president violates the law. And he did here. He incited a crowd to violence. He violated his oath of office. And there's got to be a consequence for that, or it sends a message to future presidents that they can get away with it.
Yeah. Sometimes now they're using terms like enemy combatant even to describe people who were at the Capitol Hill riot. Enemy combatant, like, a member of Al-Qaeda. They're not going to stop with this. The same reason why they'll continue to pretend there's some great threat against our country, because that perpetuation of a mindset of crisis allows them to continue to seize power and authority that they would not otherwise have. And they also then can justify more of their actions. This is essential to them. They don't want to have to actually sit around and explain why Joe Biden is able to just be a one-man legislative body and president. And if you've got a problem with that, haven't you seen all those soldiers they've deployed all over D.C.? They could come to your neighborhood. Don't post the wrong meme on your Facebook page. You might end up with Biden's FBI guys knocking at your door, saying they're going to lock you up for 10 years. This is the country we live in now, friends. We can either fight, or we can just let them continue to roll over us. That's it for tonight's Hold the Line. The No Spin News with Bill O'Reilly is up next. Shields high.